really excited. I'm Jay Ponte, and this is my comrade, Brianna Westbrook. Can we hear you, Brianna?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. How about you?
I'm psyched. I'm psyched today to launch this C4 called Downballot Progress, where we are going to be building an army, a standing, peaceful army of progressives running to support progressives running for state legislatures. We're going to take back the State House. What do you think? How you feel about that?
I'm fired up, ready to go. I don't know about you. Let's go.
Absolutely. We have an amazing show today for all of the comrades that are supporting us. Let's see, who do we have? We have R.L. Miller, founder of Climate Hawks Vote. We have Fatima Iqbal Zubair, who's running for State Assembly, California. Our friends Derek Marshall. We have Athena Salman. My brother Michael Lighty and Mimi Kennedy are going to talk about the founding of PDA. Shahid Buttar, who ran against Nancy Pelosi, who's going to be joining us. And I'm really excited to introduce one of the most inspiring progressives out there who has already started taking back the State House with Jabari Brisport. How you feel about that, Brianna?
I'm really excited to hear what Jabari has to say about New York, the experiences that he has experienced there running for the State House in New York. And, hopefully something that we can all learn from what's happening in New York, because it's, looking at, the amount of progress that they've made in just the short amount of time is very inspiring.
So, Brianna, you ran for Congress and you've been in, you're DSA member, but you've also been working to occupy the Democratic Party. Why is this particular initiative important to you?
Because state houses pass way more legislation than Congress. And if we want to materially change the lives of our people that live in our states, there's no better way to do that than passing policy at the state level, because we can make an immediate change at a much higher rate than we could in Congress. And what also is important is, half of the people that we have serving in Congress actually started in state legislatures. So we're building out a bench of bold progressive candidates that hopefully one day will have ambitions to run for Congress, and we can continue to, build out this infrastructure, be able to deploy hundreds of thousands of volunteers into state legislature races throughout the United States to really elect champions for the people in each of their respective state houses.
I couldn't agree more. And for me, it's that little thing. What do you call it? Oh yeah, the climate apocalypse. That's right. And for me, there's a lot of different reasons, but for me, a lot of the most regressive policies are taking place at the state level, and basically the Republicans have become a death cult. And the Koch brothers network of AstroTurf organizations have taken over 22 state houses. And in their, sort of Dr. Evil-esque plan to take over these state houses, they've been pushing to pass voter suppression laws that are, they're impacting people of color because Black and brown people tend to vote more progressive, right? And also fossil fuel projects tend to impact poor people of color, those communities first and most adversely. All sorts of terrible things. They're criminalizing protest at the state level in Florida. So we'll be talking to Shahid Buttar about that. And and that's not to say the Democrats are great either. We're looking forward to talking to Senator Brisport about some of the efforts that progressives have been having underway in New York to depose what was called the IDC, which we will talk about. So anyways, I'm excited. We're going to bring him up. We are going to bring him up in just a minute. But before that, I'm going to play a video where we actually did an action when Andrew Cuomo came to California. Our friend Nomiki Kantz, she's not going to want me to tell the story, so don't tell anybody. But Nomiki called me, and because Andrew Cuomo was coming to LA to have a $50,000 per person fundraiser, and it was all the biggest, telecom CEOs, and so we went to disrupt the party and ask him why he was supporting the IDC.
Governor Cuomo, why are you supporting the IDC? Why aren't you in Bonn, Germany?
All right, welcome back. And I am super excited to introduce Brother Jabari Brisport. He is a state senator in New York's 25th district, originally from Bed-Stuy. And, you know, he's long history of organizing with unions and laborers. And now he is bringing his experience to the state legislature in New York. So want to introduce everybody to a warm welcome to Senator Jabari Brisport.
Hey, Jay. Hey, Brianna. Good to see y'all.
Jabari, what's going on? How are you?
You know what? It's been the hottest day of the year in Brooklyn so far. So I know, you know, y'all out west are like, yeah, whatever. But we got summer finally arrived to New York today.
Yeah, you know, in LA, it's a 80 degrees. You know, I had an existential moment as an East Coaster. I came out here and it was January and it was too warm for my bathrobe. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to stay. I'm like, it's cool. I'm home. We just have to put up with the occasional climate apocalypse, like a giant fire. So other than that, we're pretty good.
Oh,
yeah. So tell us about your experience, you know, as a progressive who are now taking back the State House. You have entered and you're now occupying the State House. So what was that like to go from being an organizer to a state rep?
Yeah, of course. Well, first, let me say thank you for bird dogging the governor of New York, and you know, if one of the things that can come out of this project is just a national pact to just, you know, get Governor Cuomo at any point he goes around the country, that would be amazing. But I'll give a quick rundown of, I guess, the progressive movement in New York in the state legislature over the past few years, including the IDC, since, you know, we brought that up. So for those who are watching and don't, that's just a totally new acronym for you, like IDC. IDC stands for the Independent Democratic Caucus. And basically it was about 8 state senators who peeled away from the Democratic Party, and instead of conferencing with the Democrats, they conferenced with Republicans to give them a majority and control of the state. And they did it in exchange for tons of goodies, extra money for their districts. So in terms, you know, for selling out working class people in New York, they got a little extra money to give out free book bags and stuff. Nobody was the wiser until a big progressive movement swept up. And in 2018, there was a group called No IDC New York, and it was a massive progressive movement to replace each of the IDC state senators, these traitors, with progressive candidates. And 6 of them were defeated and switched out, giving Democrats, like actual Democrats and progressive Democrats, a sweeping majority in New York State, which was followed by electoral changes, criminal justice reform, a lot of great stuff, which paved the way for people like me to run 2 years later. So in the second wave in 2020, I'm a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. And I'm sorry, should I just keep going, Jay, or did you want to?
Yeah, sure, you're good. Yeah,
okay.
You know.
Okay, so in 2020, I'm a member of the DSA, like Brianna, the Democratic Socialists of America. We ran a slate of straight up socialists for the New York State legislature. And what I loved about it is that it was similar to the No IDC slate, except rather than like a negative message, like, you know, forget about these fake Democrats, we're the real Democrats, we ran on a positive message. of saying we can fundamentally change New York. And we ran on bold, universal, socialist platforms of healthcare for all, housing for all, the Green New Deal, fully funding education, drastically rolling back mass incarceration. And it was a clean sweep of socialist candidates in the state legislature.
And
we actually have, yeah.
And let us know, what did you learn in that process? What was the biggest sort of eye opener for you? What did you learn, the process of being an activist and then actually becoming a representative?
I would say the biggest lesson I learned is that our messages are very, very popular. When I ran for office, people were like, stop saying you're a socialist, stop doing that. You're going to scare people away. You're going to scare away older voters. And we won in a blowout in our race because our message resonated. People want bold solutions to their problems. They're tired of little technocratic shifts here and there, a study for this, a new commissioner for that. People want the promise of a better future, especially when people know we have everything we need to guarantee these universal access to basic human rights. So it was a clean sweep of socialist candidates. And in the time that we've been there, we all just took office for the first time on January 1st. And in that time, we've passed the most progressive state budget in New York State's history. Sweeping changes to the tax code. Definitely didn't tax the rich as much as we would have liked, but to a great deal more, enough to fully fund education, put a lot more money into childcare, into transit system, into healthcare. And where it's going next is my top priority would be fighting for what's known as the New York Health Act. That is a single payer bill for New York State specifically. And we're super close. We have the votes. We just need it to be brought to a vote, which is the next struggle. But we're pushing, and we have about 3 weeks to get it done because the state legislature.
So what can people do right now to support?
I think the best thing you can do is look up the Campaign for New York Health and, sign up for whatever actions they're doing. If you live in New York, though, the best thing you can do is call your state representatives, your assembly person, and your senator to ensure that they're vocally advocating that this bill be voted on before we end session this year. Amazing.
And really quickly, what advice would you give anybody out there? Why is this initiative important to help progressives at the state level?
At states, we can think of states as the laboratories of democracy and the laboratories of progressive legislation. And what I've been continually telling people, which is inspirational in my sense for healthcare, is that we're following the Canada strategy. In Canada, before the whole country had single payer, it started off in one province. It started off in Saskatchewan, where they passed it there, saw that it worked, and expanded it nationwide. So I want New York to be the Saskatchewan of America and pass single payer first, so that we can see that it works and we can pass it nationwide here as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator Brisport. And that's got such a great ring to it, Senator Brisport. Thank you, I just want to thank you so much, and please follow Jabari on Twitter and sign up for his mailing list. Stay in touch with what he's up to. Thank you so much for your work, brother.
Thanks so much, Jay. Appreciate y'all.
All right, cool. So let us now bring back, where's Brianna? Where's Brianna at?
I'm right here for that interview. That was great.
I know, but how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling inspired. The work that they're doing in New York is really a model that we can replicate, I think, across the United States. And I love that the senator leaned into being a socialist. He didn't run away from it, historically Democrats have done for a really long time. He leaned into it, unpacked it, and defined it. And that's what we need to do. It's about having empathy for other human beings and supporting common sense legislation that change lives of human beings. Things like healthcare, a living wage. These all sound just normal things that we should all support. Yet some people brand them as radical. It's crazy.
I actually can't wait till we talk to Mike Galiti and Mimi Kennedy about the time when they helped launch Progressive Democrats of America, when that was a super radical idea. I mean, it was a completely, utterly fringe idea. And so there have been people that have been working on the front lines of this for a long time. 60,000 Americans die every year because of lack of healthcare. And personally, my personal feeling on the ideological side is, if you're a socialist, great. I think it's great to help unpack those terms, because it's just become a dog whistle. Personally, I think that we can also, you don't have to be a socialist. You don't have to identify as anything to pass progressive legislation that represents those ideals of people-centered policies, is my feeling on it. But if that's what you feel, go for it.
That's right. That's right. And we have a link there on the bottom. If you could contribute a couple dollars, that'd be great. This is a people-powered organization. We're not funded by corporate donors, powered by working class people. So chip in 2, 3, 4, 5, any dollar amount that you have that you could chip in to fund this organization, so we can build out this infrastructure capable of supporting progressive candidates. Pitch in now.
Yeah, but right now, we know because of COVID, things are tight, and you are more important than your money. But I want to be that really clear. The central component of this mission is you, your time, your heart, your energy. Phone banking. We can win a lot of these races with people power. But yeah, there are hard costs, and we are fighting just to cover some of the most basic costs. So that little you give actually does go a long way for helping this mission. But I am very excited to introduce someone who needs no introduction. We have a beautiful message from Sister Nina Turner, who knows all about what it means to be a state senator, and she's leading at the national level. She is running for Congress right now. And here is a message from Senator Nina Turner.
I just want to salute the leadership of Downballot progressives. What a beautiful idea. To Jay and Brianna. Oh my God. Thank you both for what you're doing.
Yo, let's try that one more time. Let's try, maybe John, can you start that message? I have our technical director, John. Just want to say thank you. Give a quick shout out while we're doing that to the people who are supporting this broadcast, which is you, all of you, but also our friends at ACT TV, our friends at Progressive Democrats of America, Climate Hawks Vote. Meg Lay is also supporting us with her page. So the California Public Banking Coalition. So we just want to thank everybody for doing that. John, can we play the video?
I just want to salute the leadership of Downballot progressives. What a beautiful idea. To Jay and Brianna. Oh my God. Thank you both for what you're doing, and to all of the
Well, it wouldn't be a video event if there wasn't lagginess. That's something we've learned from the last year and a half. So,
well, it's crazy. I mean, with our $10 million budget, you'd think that we get this right. Or our budget of $0. So look at that. Anyways, well, so we'll try to get back with that message from Senator Nina Turner. But in the meantime, we'd love to introduce two brave, powerful, brilliant women who are also on the front lines running for state rep. We absolutely love Fatima Iqbal Zubair. And who else we have? Is Athena Salman join us?
Yes, Athena Salman, state representative from Arizona's 26th district.
Amazing. And what inspires you about Athena?
Athena, ever since I've known her, she's just been outspoken. She speaks truth to power. She gets on the floor at the state legislature, and she is not afraid to lean into things. She walks the walk and talks the talk. She's the real deal, and I'm excited for you to meet the representative.
I can't wait. And I love Fatima. She's an educator. She's an immigrant. She's mother to a son with special needs. she did run in 2020, and she is fighting for climate justice in California. And we are so excited to introduce Fatima and Athena. Hi, Fatima.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We can. What's going on?
Nothing much, just excited to be here and support. I think this is like a really important cause because um, there's like definitely not enough media focus and enough attention just at anywhere given to, given to state candidates, right? I feel like states like in that middle person, like it's not like a city election, it's not like Congress, but yet it's a really important, there's a lot of power and money and budget, right? That happens at the state level. So it's really, really important. So yeah, just really happy to be able to support this, and yeah, excited to be here.
Mm-hmm. What did you learn in your first run?
Yeah,
like if you could go back in time in a DeLorean, in a time machine, if you could go back in time and give some advice to yourself, what would be the advice you would give yourself in your first run?
Okay, yeah, so a lot. I mean, this I could talk an hour about like the advice I would have given myself, because I think like the best learnings come through experience and actually like going through it, right? So one thing is just like, the importance of, as a progressive candidate that has like taken all the pledges out there, from no cop money to no developer money to no corporate money, and running against an incumbent Democrat, right? So it's even hard to get like all the union support and things like that. It's really fundraising becomes important. So I learned that it's really, really important to start grassroots fundraising really early, because then it amplifies, you're able to do just better voter outreach. So that's the first thing. And then I also learned, that it's really important to be able to, find a team that you can really trust, right? That is like really, really important. There's different sorts of candidates out there. There's different, and every like community is different. Every candidate is different. So it's just really important to find a good team that you can work with, that is competent, that knows how to organize, that is collaborative. And so that's something that I was grateful to have some people on my team that were great last year. But I know even better now, the sort of team I want to create, because I went through it once, right? And so I would say like those are the two most important things. And then maybe also just like, as a teacher, in a low-income community, I had to do a lot of things on my own, right? I wasn't really given help, right? I mean, there was never enough funding. There was never like, it was a low-income community and LAUSD, right? And so we just kind of bought our own supplies, we had to do everything on our own. And so I had to learn, to let go, right? A little bit of some of that control, and just so I can focus on things I need to as a candidate. So
Amazing.
I would say those are some of the key learnings. Yeah.
And we're just welcoming right now. We're welcoming Representative Athena Salman. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And first off, Fatima, how can people stay in touch with what you're doing?
Yeah, so my website is fatimafораssembly.com. And so you can find me online, and that's where you can volunteer, donate, get involved. So yeah.
Amazing. And we're really looking forward in this organization to supporting your run. Please, these are the people we need to be occupying the structures of power right now. I mean, really, these are the people we need to be behind right now. So Representative Salman, what advice would you give to someone like Fatima in terms of what you learned running for state legislature?
Yeah, so I represent Arizona's 26th legislative district, and in Arizona we only have 30, so it really varies state by state. Do that research ahead of time to figure out what you're up against. But even though it's a state seat for a representative body, I think people would be surprised at how grassroots and how in the community the campaign really is. My campaign, like, we pride ourselves on knocking on tens of thousands of voters' doors, and before the pandemic, having in-person conversations. And in a state like Arizona, where every single year we're facing record heats and record number of over 100-degree weather. Number of days, it really is a commitment, but it's a commitment that's well worth it, because as was pointed out, we need more progressives in state legislatures, in state capitals. Not only are we up against fighting the Republican Party and the Trump elements that have really taken over and become central to that party, but even within our own party, we then have like a more corporatist, more centrist wing of the party that wants to compromise our values instead of actually holding true to our democratic progressive values.
I completely agree, Representative Salman. If you could, why are state house elections so important?
Yeah. So when you talk to an average voter that's not really thinking about elections or politics every single day, they definitely know about the president. They probably are familiar with who their U.S. senators are. Maybe they know their U.S. congressperson, but the lower you get down the ballot, the less grasp some voters have on what the importance of those positions are. And the interesting and unique thing about the legislature is that the legislature is the body that sends all the policies, all the laws over to the governor for either approval or rejection. And it's that go between the federal government and what the federal government does and local jurisdictions and municipalities. And so it's like the sweet spot where, depending on how big your state is, like in a state like Arizona, we have over 7 million people now. I'm in a position where I can make a difference in the state legislature for 7 million Arizonans. And, what I see every single legislative session and every single year is, while the federal government is sending and providing opportunities for states to tap into funding that maybe expands childcare for families, maybe expands healthcare coverage, especially for low-income people. We have millions upon millions of ARP funding that just came down from the American Relief Plan. If your state legislature isn't designing programs, isn't building their budgets to really maximize these potential dollars, there's only so much that the federal government can do. A lot of that power and a lot of the investments directly into your communities are decided at the state level. And because Republicans are barely in the majority in each chamber, they only hold a 1-seat majority in the state house and state senate. I see firsthand how they will underfund communities of color. They will underfund services that the poor and especially working women rely on. But they'll have pet projects for their districts, and they'll send resources to communities that might not need it as much as other communities.
Mm-hmm. Fatima, how do you feel listening to that?
Yeah, I was just like texting. I was like, can I answer this for California? Because I think our climate here is like so different, but it's like, yeah, but it's like still like awful. Like it's actually hypocritical. So California is known as like this progressive beacon, right? And we have the supermajority, very, very different from Arizona probably, right? With the supermajority in both houses, and we have had it for like a while. But we are also the state with the largest income inequality, largest wealth inequality, and the greatest homeless population, right, in the entire country. So what that means, though, for folks that are elected in our state is that a lot of them are steeped, while they're Democrats, they're steeped in taking corporate money. And actually, the number one contributor to state candidates is real estate. So it's not surprise, right, with our large housing issue, why we can't overturn, bills like Costa-Hawkins and Ellis, why we can't, think about, social housing and just some real systemic changes to our housing and adding more public housing and things like that, or a vacancy tax, right? And it's because that while we have Democrats, right, up there, we have some of the worst issues. And it's unfortunate because I think that's what Republicans in our state use, right? To say, hey, look at these Democrats, right? But it's like, I think it's really, really important to say, like, it's not enough to be a Democrat, right? Like, you have to be one that is not beholden to these interests and one that is beholden to the people, right? And that's like someone I'm running against right now. I'm running against, the biggest corporate acceptor of money in the state legislature. And it makes it hard for grassroots candidates because we have to go, toe to toe with fundraising, but then the ground game becomes really important. That's one thing I forgot to mention. Like, that's part of the reason I'm starting early this time is so I can knock on more doors, right? because I know that's what's going to make a huge difference. And but the hopeful thing, I think you had someone earlier on that talked about Saskatchewan. I actually used to live in Saskatchewan in Canada, the first province that had Medicare for all, right? There was a single payer bill up in the state legislature in California that that died essentially this session. And it's so unfortunate because we have the money, we have the resources, our state went to Bernie Sanders, right? We have the people to get some of this legislation done, right? And remember, when our founding fathers devised it so that our state legislatures would have a lot of power, right? That's intentional. And people forget that. One thing I wanted to point out as a teacher, especially, is that over 90% of education funding, for example, is at the state level, right? People talk, till they're blue in their face about Betsy DeVos, but they're not talking about what our state legislature is failing, how it's failing our students. In California, we're one of the lowest in per pupil funding. Just like that, housing and environmental issues, especially in criminal justice, can be addressed at the state level. We can end things like qualified immunity. We can work to decertify police officers, end the death penalty, which we still have in California, but it's not permanently ended. We can really create these systemic changes, at the state level. And if anything, California can lead the way and, hopefully inspire Arizona, right, to get enough, because it's not about, wait, I don't see your name, our one representative here. She's great, but we need more folks like her to get in there, right? And if California can show we can do it, states like Arizona, even Georgia, can do it. I feel like New York is a little bit more ahead of us right now, Jay and Brianna, right? Like, we want to get more democratic socialists in California because I'm seeing what New York is on the verge of doing, and it's because we have.
Here's the thing: we are really on the precipice. This is a national movement, and when we talk to Michael Lighty and Mima Kennedy, you'll get a sense of just how far we've come. But it's important to know that it's still just the beginning of the movement. This is an enormous thing, and nobody has any illusions that the Democratic Party is some progressive institution. Absolutely not. Both parties are beholden to corporate money. I always think about that. There's a meme that shows the Dead Kennedys album song "Kill the Poor," and it's like Republicans kill the poor, Democrats clean version. And it may sound a little extreme, but there literally 60,000 people die because of healthcare every year. And at the same time, as a former Occupy Wall Street organizer, I am really encouraged by what's happening. I'm so grateful for both of you. And, Brianna, go.
Yeah, I'd love, for Representative Salman to talk about some of the things that are going on in Arizona right now at the state legislature, because there should be some more national attention on that. And I think this is a really great opportunity to maybe highlight some of the things that you're fighting for at the state legislature, how people can support you and support other electeds that are fighting for the people right now at the Arizona State House.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, to piggyback on Fatima, so one of the things that was interesting in the last election cycle in 2020, it was projected that Democrats were going to be in the majority in the legislature. And I run as a clean election candidate. Arizona is one of 2 states that offer candidates for the state legislature a publicly financed campaign option. So we don't have to I don't take any PAC money, any corporate money. My campaign is funded by the people. And so that was my 3rd time running. And in usual years, in my first 2 years running, the corporate interest didn't really pay attention, didn't really care about my district because it's a majority Democratic district. But last year, corporations and Republican interests, like top Republican donors to our Governor Doug Ducey, ended up funding not only my opponent directly through campaign contributions, but ended up organizing over $200,000 in dark money through independent expenditures to try and get her elected. Fortunately, obviously, I won my election. We were able to protect the full progressive slate. There's 3 people and 3 legislators in every district in Arizona, 2 in the House and 1 in the Senate. But I think to your point about what's happening in California, and one of the things, Brianna, that I'm fighting for in Arizona is in the Democratic districts, the Democratic majority districts, to not water down those districts with corporate Democrats, to not water down with people who look like us. It was a woman of color that was running against myself and my running mate, who's a just young, vibrant Latina. But when push come to shove, you know, those critical policy changes that we are fighting for, that are really a poor people's movement, those Democrats aren't going to hold up to those corporate powers, and they're going to cave. And, you know, so in Arizona, like, a lot of the work that I do, unfortunately, in the legislature is fight against. We are one of the state legislatures that just passed, you know, in terms of Georgia, I think Georgia beat us on the most voter suppression measures. We're second in the country for the most rolling back attempts to roll back the freedom to vote of our Arizona voters. So, you know, we've beaten back almost all the voter suppression bills, but a big one finally got its way through. So we're kind of ground zero, and then we have the fraud, you know, the sham audit that really is trying to lay the groundwork so that Republican legislators can overturn the will of the voters in subsequent elections. Like, the 2020 election's already done, but it's really disturbing what's happening in Arizona, and so I think, like, aside from having to fight against a lot of bad legislation, you know, while the Republicans, we also passed, being the Republicans, a fetal personhood law. So while they are advancing a radical agenda that literally says at conception, a woman who's carrying a zygote has less rights than that developing fetus, you know, we've introduced legislation to provide a contrast that would guarantee access to comprehensive reproductive health care. And we've run on a legislation, I've sponsored and co-sponsored legislation that would provide the full spectrum of reproductive justice, from ending qualified immunity and really restricting use of force justifications for law enforcement, and revitalizing we don't have a statewide, we have an unofficial bad cops list, but we don't have one that's managed by the state, to investing in our education. Fatima, I would love to see the day where we can do a single payer option in Arizona. Right now we're fighting for a public option. And, you know, when we were thinking we were going to be in the majority, we were going to start doing hearings so that Arizonans could have an affordable healthcare option. So we're still working towards this, and we're still keeping our eyes on 2022 as an opportunity for us to get the majority. And, you know, when you're looking at our caucus and you're looking at the progressive wing, that includes myself, we're really preparing to push hard for policies that we're going to start as progressive as possible, so that we're not starting with the compromise package, which is what a lot of corporate centrist Democrats do. They start with the compromise, and then what you end up with is something that barely makes any change. So we're excited to really advocate and really have an opportunity to get things done for Arizonans. But just realistically, for the folks on this call, in a Republican-controlled legislature with a Republican governor, a lot of our energy during session is just trying to stop things from getting worse.
Yeah, and I think that's a worthy point. Thank you for, you know, being on the front lines in that, because, you know, we're going to talk about with Shahid later. You know, they're criminalizing protests. So if you are a leftist, if you're a direct action organizer, you might not care about electoral politics, but it cares about you, and it's coming. It is coming. You know, the right is passing some of the most draconian, Handmaid's Tale, Gilead-like legislation, and it is real right now, and it is coming. So thank you for Fatima, for your efforts. This is not easy, folks. We get to support our brave people who are on this part of the front lines. So I'm a believer in the inside-outside strategy. We need people outside disrupting, also working with people on the inside who are changing the policy, because when the policies change, that's when the system changes. So I just want to thank you so much for both of your efforts, for joining us today, and anything we can do to be of support. And we're looking forward to continuing to support you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us on. And Fatima, I look forward to working closely with you. Good luck on your race.
Yeah, thank you so much. We were close last time, so hopefully we'll make it this time. And we need, I think, public financing, because I didn't know Arizona had that. That's something I wanted to say. California, we have, yeah. we're working. A bill to end corporate money even died in committee actually. So where we're working on getting.
Luckily, you are going to be
Yeah.
in our legislature. Telling the truth and making some changes. So thank you for joining us. Please follow both of them on Twitter, sign up for their mailing lists, and we will be having some volunteer shifts that we're looking forward to sending people to campaign for these great state reps. So thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much, Jay and Brianna. Appreciate it.
So I am also really excited to next bring up the founder of Down Ballot Progress, who is someone who's worked on a number of state races. How are you feeling after that interview, Brianna? What's the feeling you're getting?
I'm loving this call so far. We have so many diverse voices and so many different perspectives, and just really excited for the upcoming speakers and what they're going to bring to the conversation that we're having today about the importance of state elections. So without further ado, let's bring up the next speakers.
Absolutely. So we're going to introduce Amory, and I just want to give a shout out to some of the organizations that supported us: Progressive Democrats of America, Climate Hawks Vote, and really looking forward to talking to R.L. Miller in a little while, and our friends over at ACT TV. We just want to say thank you for uplifting that. Meg Lay for sharing it to her page, and all the guests who've shown up first. So want to introduce Amory Desjardins. Let's bring in Amory.
Hey guys, how's it going?
What's going on, Brooklyn?
Not too much. How are you guys doing?
Psyched.
Well, thanks for offering to be the host tonight. I'm so psyched that we made this happen. I wouldn't be here without you two on my team and our team, I should say. So thanks for doing this. You guys have done great work so far, and also shout out to John in the back. I got to say, I'm helping him in the back a little bit, moving from speaker to speaker, and it can be a little chaotic. So he does a thankless job back there.
We're just throwing you in the deep end. So Amory, what was your inspiration to start Down Ballot Progress?
Yeah, well, for those who don't know me, I've been an organizer now for about 5 or 6 years, starting on a state rep campaign in Massachusetts, and worked on campaigns from state rep to president and everything in between. And I've seen good campaigns and I've seen bad campaigns. And, regardless of how those campaigns went, we would work so hard in building a volunteer base that was large enough to get our message out there and drive the narrative that we wanted to drive about our candidate. And then regardless of whether or not you won or lost, or maybe your candidate dropped out, which, it happens, right? The next day, your volunteer base would just disappear, and you've built this massive, great communications tool all of a sudden just to see it go. And, then you would just go from the next campaign and the next campaign and the next campaign, and the same thing would happen. We need more organizations where we can continue to build that volunteer base, never lose it, build it to the extent necessary that you gain the political power to actually pass the agendas that you need. So, we can't just keep reinventing the wheel. And I think we can build something here with Down Ballot Progress that brings the progressive movement a chair to the table in these state legislatures.
Well, you know what they say? They say, if there's no seat at the table for you, bring a folding chair.
Exactly, and that's what we plan to do, because we need these in states across the country, regardless, as Jabari mentioned, if you're a super blue state, or as Athena mentioned, a red state, not a super red state, but a red state, or in these super red states as well. Each scenario has a different, each state has a different scenario, and we need to adjust to that, because just because you're in Massachusetts doesn't mean you're necessarily a good Democrat. So we need more of those folks to elect and be our voices for the progressive movement in state legislatures.
And how can people support right now? What's the biggest way that people can support? Because obviously, this is a bootstrap effort. It's a people-centered, people-powered initiative. What are the ways that people can support?
Yeah, two ways. One just popped up at the bottom of the screen. Go to downballotprogress.com and donate. And whatever you can give. I know we're just coming, hopefully, cross our fingers, out of a pandemic. So if now is not the time, that's okay. But whatever you can, each one makes a difference. But we also have so much to do. We're already phone banking for a candidate, Karishma Mehta. We're supporting her in Virginia's 49th delegate district. Her election's on June 8th, and we'll be supporting some other candidates as well. We got definitely some exciting ones out there, and a lot more to come in this 2021 and this cycle.
Amazing. And when is there's going to be a volunteer meeting, I think in June? Is it June 5th?
Yeah. Wednesday, June 2nd. I think same time, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. So everyone across the country can participate. So that's on our website too. You just go to downballotprogress.com and click events.
Yeah, the best thing is, if you sign up for the website, you're going to get the information on the daily. Well, we're not going to email you every day, but you'll be able to stay in touch with us. I promise you, we will not email you every day, but you will be able to stay kind of in touch with us, what the current efforts are going to be. And I mean, I just got to reiterate, a lot of these races can be won with people power. 500 volunteer shifts. That's it. It's actually really doable.
Right. I just to add before we move on to our next guest, in state representative primaries in Massachusetts, it takes around 2,500 votes to win. Sometimes less, sometimes more. But the point is that if we can have a mobile volunteer base of what you just mentioned, going into these districts that don't usually get as much grassroots activism as, let's say, the middle of Iowa in presidential primary season, we can make a huge difference. So we can go find those quiet races, push our candidates in there, and really, as you mentioned, bring that folding chair, as Shirley Chisholm mentioned, or said way back when, to the table. So let's do it.
Great. So last question, what do you like about Karishma?
First off, guts. You have to have the guts to really put yourself out there and fight for these causes. And it's not easy being a candidate going up against such an entrenched incumbent who is taking money from special interests. Yet she's put together a solid campaign with consistent volunteer bases that show up, that have really put her as one of the races to watch on June 8th. She's
what for you? What for you are some of the standards for you of what makes you want to support a candidate?
Well, I mean, first off, it's the policies, right? She's out there advocating for childcare for all in Virginia, and completely eliminating medical debt for Virginians as well. So we can start there. But we're going to try and help to make sure that these campaigns are solid ones as well, because building a volunteer base is ranked as either number one or the second hardest thing to do for these campaigns. So if we can bring that to them, it matters more than writing a check. So she's out there. We're not at that level yet, but we hope to be there. And she's out there emulating that model that we kind of hope to bring. So props to her, and we're gonna throw her as many volunteer shifts in these next couple of weeks. So hopefully she can bring it home.
Cool. Well, I think let's see if our video capabilities are still working. They may not. Sorry, the internet bandwidth may not be allowing us to do it. But here's Karishma.
There's a story of a little girl. Her parents came to this country looking for a better life. She was born into a struggling working-class family that moved around a lot because of high rent and very few job opportunities. Her parents did their best to put food on the table, even if they couldn't afford health care for themselves after 15-hour workdays. I try to teach with high expectation, safety, love, and joy. Like many of my students, I wake up every day and commute to school in rush hour traffic. I've seen parents pay thousands each month for a quality education, while public school students go hungry or they stay in debt. Those experiences are mine, but they are also the lived experience of millions of kids who are told that they aren't a priority. My name is Karishma Mehta, and I'm running to represent Virginia's 49th district in the House of Delegates.
What a compelling campaign video. What a great video.
Yeah. And, you know, as much as we want the donations tonight, we do have Karishma's link at the bottom. If you want to quickly copy it, or just look up Karishma Mehta on Google.
Awesome. Thank you. And let's do this. We seem to have the bandwidth. Coming up next, we're going to stay tuned. We have Michael Lighty join us, who is a Medicare for All OG. Mimi Kennedy, who is an actress and an activist, coming up. A lot of great activists and guests coming up. But let's try that message from Nina Turner one more time. What do you think? I just love the way I'm just going to do anything to hear her speak.
Third time's a charm. You're being risky. Third time's
fingers crossed, everybody. Fingers crossed. Okay.
I just want to salute the leadership of Downballot Progressive.
Nope, not happening. It's like a running joke. All right, so let's see, who are we bringing up next? Who is waiting in the green room?
Let's throw up that video on the Facebook page.
Yep.
In a standalone app.
Yep, we certainly can. So if you go to the Downballot Progress page, you'll be able to see this message from Nina Turner. We love you, Nina Turner. You are the best. I think she might be the best public speaker in America. I don't know. That's just me.
She's going to win her election.
But yeah, next, Jay, if you're doing a fantastic job, props to you. But I think David Cobb, the co-coordinator of the U.S. Solidarity Economy Network, is next, right?
Let's see. Was he be able to get in? I don't think. Yeah, I think David's still trying to get into the green room. So let us introduce Michael Lighty and Mimi Kennedy. Let's see if let's bring in Michael.
Hey, Michael.
Brother Michael,
hey,
how are
great
you?
to see you guys. Great to see you, Brianna, my road warrior friend.
That's right. How are you?
Road warrior, that sounds like an inside joke. I want to know what that means.
We were on Bernie Surrogates together.
Oh, that's right.
2020 campaign. So, yeah.
Spoke about Medicare for All up there in Nevada with a lot of constituents, and brought home that massive win for Bernie.
Those were fun times. A little contentious, but quite fun. And I even made it into your home turf in Arizona. So thank you.
Heck yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. You are the brightest mind, I say, in the country when it comes to Medicare for All and single payer healthcare. I'd love, for you to share what we could accomplish at the state level for a single payer healthcare system.
Well, I think that, your previous speakers had mentioned this, right? That states are now in a position to be the laboratories on this question. We've done some polling in California. 84% of Democrats support single payer in California. A majority of Californians support single payer, even after hearing the industry arguments against it. Clearly, Governor Newsom ran on single payer. He was elected, won the primary, in a significant part on it. He's facing a recall, and the voters that are supportive of him against the recall are still, though not motivated necessarily to vote, but Medicare for All motivates them. So governor leadership is really the key. We've had bills go through the legislature. We've had bills get to the governor's desk. We've had bills stopped in the legislature because of governor opposition. What we've never had is a governor leading the way to single payer. So that's what we need. How do you overcome the kind of opposition that Fatima was talking about in the legislature? You overcome the corporate Democrats by putting it on the agenda from the governor. And the governor says, listen, folks, get in line or get out of here. And that kind of leadership has to be, generated from the demand from the grassroots. And we have to, it's not that we're asking these guys to do this. We're not relying upon them to do it. We're forcing them to do it whether they want to or not, because it's in their political interest to do so. And until we're able to basically defeat them on this issue or elect enough people on our side on this issue, they're going to just be afraid of the corporate money, the healthcare industry money, the insurance money, the hospitals, the pharmaceutical money. We've got to show that the political power is on our side. And so that's the campaign. It's to move beyond just the progressive caucus into those, those corporate Dems, those moderate Dems, and say, either you're on this or you're going to be primaried and out of here. Either you're with us, Governor, or you're going to see a challenge politically as well. And I think we just got to play a little bit of hardball because 84% of our base is with us. Tell me, both of you, one issue that 84% of Republicans are on that party isn't massively prosecuting. It doesn't happen on the other side. It happens on our side because we're bought into these corporate interests and this paradigm of, the private sector is better, or it's, you can't overcome this opposition. And so we've got to demonstrate that not only can we overcome it, it's absolutely necessary. And I was very distraught to hear President Biden say, oh, the left is focusing on things that people don't need, like Medicare for all. I served on the Lancet Commission. The Lancet Commission identified 436,000 deaths in this country in 2018, before the pandemic, as a result of us not having a national healthcare system. That's excess deaths over the median of other countries who do have those systems. So tell me that those 436 lives don't matter. 436,000 lives don't matter. And I know there's 43,000, at least in California, right, who have died because of this healthcare system. And the inequities resulting from COVID, revealed by COVID and resulting from COVID, make the case just profoundly, I think, in moral terms. And so this is a movement to save lives, get on the correct side of this political issue, or face a very bleak political future.
So I am interested in hopefully, let's see, we have Mimi Kennedy got her. All right. Hi, Mimi, how are you?
Michael.
Hey,
Perfect timing. Absolutely. So
Thank
Mimi Kennedy is an actress. You have seen her on CBS. She's also an OG in the movement for Progressive Democrats of America, also a veteran of the Dennis Kucinich campaign. And I want to take us back in time. I want to go back in time to 2004, 2008. Because a lot of people were activated in 2016 or 2020 by the Bernie Sanders campaign. A lot of people never even followed electoral politics before that. Didn't see a reason. But I want to take us back in time. What was it like back then, to be a so-called progressive? Did you have millions of people standing up and demanding Medicare for all? What was it like?
I remember the time I was on a Kucinich campaign and we came to a park where there was supposed to be a rally for Dennis, and there were 3 people sitting on a bench. And as we approached, I said to Dennis, change the story. This is not a rally. These are 3 people you're supposed to meet in your life. You're going to get to know them really well and let them know you. That was all we could do. The reason why, aside from Dennis having been targeted long ago by the right wing for having held on to the municipal electricity system in Cleveland when he was mayor, and they smeared him and the banks got him out, but he came back as a wonderful congressman. But the reason was, progressive was not a word at the time. Liberal was the word. And I had many older friends, as old to me as I am to you now, say to me, well, I'm glad you're getting interested in politics, but I'm a liberal. What's wrong with the word liberal? Why are you coming along and changing it? And it was a simple answer. The word had been smeared by the right wing to mean both libertine because of Bill Clinton, sexually promiscuous, or liberal squandering your money. Oh, you're taxing me for kids I didn't bear in the schools and tax. So I said, just dump it. They've ruined it. Progressive, that was a Republican word, and Teddy Roosevelt. That's why I think the pushback was so hard. Frankly, I think the Republicans wanted to keep that word for themselves, and they were horrified that we had come up with it. But at the time, there was a war. There was a lie, the election of 2000, the Supreme Court saying stop the count in Florida. There were still some paper ballots in Florida, and we could have counted them, and it would have proven that Al Gore won. But the Supreme Court said, no, the rules are you have to certify by this date. 96,000 people were purged, voter suppression, mostly Black people, all those same problems we worry about today. We're were there in 2000. So in 2004, Tim Carpenter goes, it's going to be Progressive Democrats of America. And the liberals went, who the hell are you? And we don't want you. And I'm so impressed, Brianna, with you and Jay and the characters, the people, the candidates, they're characters, but they're candidates. That's my showbiz showing that I'm meeting, because we often said, look at our hair. It's gray. It's white. We're white. You know, where is the new generation? We have to somehow hold on, keep hope alive long enough that it will become very clear that without the things we want, peace, justice, racial justice, Medicare for all, until we get those things, the new generations are going to be screwed. So,
yeah, and this is a narrative that so many people don't know, right?
Yeah.
So there's some idea that Bernie came out of the free market, and he just went viral. He's a phenomenon.
Yeah.
The free market will give us the candidate. Not true.
No, and to your issue
that PDA and a group called People for Bernie. Hi, everybody out at People for Bernie.
Yeah.
We're running 2 lateral campaigns to push Bernie to run. And
but to your point, very specifically down ballot races, Bernie emerged as mayor of Burlington, Vermont. And you know that story if you've seen the video. It starts small. It starts with 12 more votes than the other person had, because you are the one who engaged your voters and you knew who they were, and you got engaged them, and they told some friends, and you got 12 more votes than the other person. It happens a lot. That's where Bernie actually came from. And he did it, and his friends did it because they shared values. That happened with PDA, Progressive Democrats of America. It was started with all the anti-war candidates. Delegates were mad as hornets in 2004. The John Kerry, the Winter Soldier, who threw his medals over the fence to the White House and said, the Vietnam War was a lie, and I don't want these medals. Oh my God. But he wouldn't stand against the Iraq War. So all the candidates, Carol Moseley Brown, Al Sharpton, John Edwards, oh my God, but Dennis Kucinich, and even Howard Dean, although he went off and did his own thing, but they all came together.
You mean
those delegates were progressives. But the ballot races are important for that reason. And thank you for saying people don't know this history, but it's exactly what you're doing is what's going to be the story you're going to tell 20 years from now. Because this is how it happens. Kamala Harris, you know, she ran for attorney general. At the time, Karl Rove knew who she was and saw her coming and thought, uh-oh, she's going to be a star. And they love stars on the Republican side. You know, here, thank God, you can be a celebrity, but you got to do the work. But they were like, oh, she's a star of the Democratic Party. We got to get her done. And that came down to absentee ballots and provisional ballots, because typically they used voting tricks to cast a lot of people into provisional voting. Who were they? The people who were excited about Kamala Harris, who don't always vote. So the key, she won, she pulled it out in the absentee, and we, organized PDA, happened to be organized enough to send people into various counties to watch them open the mail ballots and the provisionals. And we were the oversight. And people got scared and they went, oh God, okay, who are these people? But that's how it works. And one thing I want to say about down ballot races, and if the candidates are still listening, geographically, what gerrymandering has done, and even without it, most people don't know in California what the hell their assembly district is, nor who their state senator is. And by the way, you can be in one assembly district and a completely other state senate district. So my friend may go, oh, I love Audrey Nazarian, our assembly. Who's our senator? Well, mine is Bob Hertzberg. Who's yours? I don't know. So I sign every email, or I did for a while I was organizing. Mimi Kennedy, this assembly district, this assembly person, this Senate district, this, and if I could have, I would have put a map, because that's the way you and your neighbors become a core voting block for a specific politician down ballot. And they're scared as hell if they don't listen to you.
So how can we follow you, Mimi? How can we stay in touch with what you're up to?
Oh, okay. Well, pdamerica.org is where my organization is kicking butt. And we are national, so we can't do the state thing. But every state has a progressive caucus, and that is where you will find Progressive Democrats of America doing state work.
And that's where we hope to fill the gap as well. And we're talking about working as a coalition. People, we get out of our silos. Done. We need to be done with the silos. It's not going to happen with everybody fighting for their own funding and fighting for, this little swath of followers. That is over. Solidarity is the only path forward, in my opinion. And
get to know your neighbors. Get to know your political neighbors. And if you feel like they're all conservative or they don't know, start signing your emails to the people you know and love and work with your districts. So they'll know, oh, I wonder what one I'm in. And eventually you could have a meeting of 15 people all in your district. And that's what it takes to be a voting bloc.
Awesome. Anything else, Brianna? Any final thoughts, Brianna?
Yeah. I would just like to amplify, what is some of the, just one issue you think in your state that is most important that people should pay attention to that are maybe on this call, or something that call to action that locally in each of your states that is important you feel in this moment?
Michael, I bow to you.
Well, I think actually, with this budget surplus that we have in California, $38 billion, the governor's not funding public health. Public health authorities have asked for $200 million in the pandemic, and he refuses to do it. He's privatized the public health system. He and previous Democratic governors have underfunded it. I think that has to be a top priority in the context of the pandemic. He's doing housing relief, $12 billion to address those unhoused. Important work, not sufficient. We've got a housing crisis here. This takes money, it takes people power, and it takes, I think, also a higher minimum wage. So these are the key, I think, elements. And until we get corporate money out of politics, like Fatima said, it's going to be very difficult to accomplish this. And what I love about Mimi's approach is she's a big thinker. She thinks about what really it takes to win elections, and she operates at that level of what tactically it takes in a specific election, in a specific neighborhood. And we've got to be able to think and act at those different levels.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for both of for being the torchbearers. And I, learned so much from both of you. I'm just really proud to know you, and know everybody coming through. So, we're going to stand in that vision for you of Medicare for all and all of the other progressive issues. Solidarity to all of the McDonald's workers right now who are on the picket line. So we want to send our love and support out. Don't go to not that who wants to go to McDonald's, anyways, but if that's what you're into, we hope that you are standing in solidarity with workers who deserve a living wage. Amazing how, they say, oh, frontline workers, they're so brave, you're heroes. Can we have a living wage? Then we hear nothing, Yeah. So, but we're just so grateful to the work we're doing. We're grateful to PDA for the work y'all are doing. And thanks for joining us today. Want to say coming up next.
Thank you.
And Michael, how do we stay in touch with you?
Well, I operate with healthycalifornia.org. That's healthyca.org.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us. And coming up next is a wonderful, one of my favorite humans in the world. I swear to you, such an incredibly talented person. It's been over 10 years, but he played with a band. He was a frontman and singer-songwriter from a band called the Mowglis, which were island Def Jam recording artists who had a hit called San Francisco. Check it out on YouTube. But Michael Mowgli is going to be with us. He joins us to make a lot of trouble. So not only is he a brilliant performer and singer-songwriter, but he's also the guy who will bring out his sound system when we're organizing a direct action, when we're shutting down a bank or something. He's one of the guys who will come out and bring his sound system and play some music, and we're just so grateful to have him. So let us introduce Michael Mowgli. Hey, Michael, how are you feeling?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you guys doing? I'm gonna kill that.
You feel good. Sounds like you're in outer space. I'm loving the reverb, buddy. Super trippy. So what are you going to play for us today?
I'm going to play... Sorry. Hey, how's everyone
That's
doing?
Better. That's much better.
Right.
Way better.
I'm going to play a song called Calling All Lovers, which Jay and I actually performed together at a Bernie Sanders rally in 2016 in San Diego. And,
did.
And Jay, I remember your lyrical modification. I'm going to do my best to throw it in right now.
Yeah, great. It's like one of the greatest days ever.
It was.
Yeah, we got to open up for the senator and all of the Bernie heroes and sheroes and dayros, and it was it was like what 10,000-15,000 people on the. It was one of the greatest days of my life.
Mine too. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm really grateful for all of the work that you all are doing. And I got the call from Jay to come do something, and whenever Jay says I should be somewhere, I'm like always on an amazing adventure that helps the world. So I'm just really grateful to be a part of this today and to be of support for what you guys are up to in the future with sound and music in any other way that I can be.
Yeah, and I love how you actually match the words of your music. So your music is uplifting, it's beautiful, but you actually also live that. So thank you. All right, we're going to step back and listen to your song.
All right, I'm a work in progress. I'm trying to catch
I'm excited.
Up. All right, this is Calling All Lovers with a little new intro.
That lives in all of us, all of us, all of us, all. Hey Yahweh, yeah, you read my words and you thought they were absurd. Yeah, that I was idealistic and that love would never work. Well, maybe you were right, it's just so simply satisfied. Yeah, but you can't fix a problem if you're too afraid to try. La la la, laugh it up to nothing. Maybe someday you'll see something. Yeah, changes your perspective and tells you what the wave meant. But open your eyes, yeah, we've still got time and we could be the difference. Yeah, we could end our suffering. Just enough to wet the tongue. So let a homily ring out of every talking mouth. The revolution will happen in your heart. The revolution will happen in your heart. They say that it's so easy to forget. Yeah, one day epiphany, and the next you go right back. Cause it's hard to ascertain it when you're American, when you're bred to be entitled, born to consume everything. When you're taught we're not the same, yeah, that we're a better race, and that all the other countries don't deserve the things we waste. Then to burn up all the oil, let the rich keep all the spoils, to let all the thirsty people keep drinking dirty water. And maybe there's no hope, maybe this is all on us. Maybe everything we've done just needs to feel the weight of consequence, and we're on a cusp. Yeah, all that matters now is what we do today. How will we protect tomorrow? All we need is one, yeah, just one drop, just enough to wet the tongue. revolution will happen in your heart. The revolution will happen in your heart. Trust. May every action you are taking have some intent to serve a greater good. Calling all lovers, turn on. We are calling all lovers, wake up. Oh, please relay the message. 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 This is another one of the prayers for the multiverses. This is another prayer for the people. Yeah, for all of us, all of us, all of us, all. Hey, Yahweh, of Cascadia, and ooh, I've been sipping on the hope to come for too long. I've been praying for 2021.
Woof. Wow. Well, that one takes me back. Thank you so much, Michael. The hair is standing
You're
up
so
on the back of
welcome.
my arms.
Oh, thanks, Jay. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for all that you do for the world, man, and for our people. I appreciate it. I know that everybody appreciates it who knows you, and those that don't know, I'm sure they appreciate it without knowing. So, yeah.
Thanks for the kind words, but it's all of us, man. I mean, your words were so on point. I love you, brother.
Love
I'm
you
so
too,
grateful
man.
for you, and we're going to talk soon. But thanks for joining us. And how do we follow you? How do we stay in touch with you?
Hit me up on Instagram at Michael Mowgli. That's the easiest way right now.
Yep. More of that to come. All right. Thanks, brother.
All right. Thank you. See you later.
All right. And coming up next, we're going to talk with someone who has been in the trenches for a long time. He was an organizer against the war in Iraq. He's been arrested in Congress. He ran for Congress against Nancy Pelosi, and he's a Stanford law grad who is also working to transform our system. A direct action background, was on the ground in Ferguson during that uprising. And so looking forward to bring up Shahid Buttar. But first, we're going to watch a quick video about a law that they're trying to pass in Florida to criminalize protests. So Brother Shahid's going to come talk about it. Please share this with your friends. Donate if you can. Sign up on the mailing list. Follow us on social media. And mostly, if you or someone you know someone who is just a superstar phone banker, please let them know about Down Ballot Progress. Let them know about our mission. We need you. We need, more than anything, we need you. So stay tuned for this video talking about some really terrible things happening in Florida.
Last week, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a controversial law. He calls it an anti-riot law. It allows police to crack down on Floridians who are involved in protests that turn violent. Now, deputies in South Florida are being told not to enforce that law.
And I believe there's multiple different state legislatures. One even trying to absolve someone of running people over, probably not something that you want to encourage. So what do you make of this in the broader context of arguments around civil liberties, post-January 6th, post-riots, all of that?
Well, I think that one of the interesting things with both this bill in Florida and the bill in Oklahoma that has to do with permitting people to run people over, but the challenge here is that this law, HB1, is incredibly vague. And it basically gives law enforcement officials the ability to say, this protest, I don't like it. So it's unlawful assembly. And that means that everyone who's arrested from the unlawful assembly that the law enforcement has just decided it was, gets arrested and held for an entire evening. And it grants police officers really broad discretion that perhaps they shouldn't get to have about who should be arrested and who should.
So that was one of the terrible draconian laws being passed in Florida. So Down Ballot Progress seeks to support candidates in 50 states. But I'm really excited to bring on my friend Shahid Buttar. Oh, I think, can we hear you? Can we hear you, Shahid? No, we're having some audio issues. Hopefully we'll get that sorted out in just a second. So while we're trying to get that sorted out, okay, Shahid, let's try again. Check 1, 2. Okay, so we are having some audio issues. So Shahid, we'll come back to you. But looking forward to talking about this. Really important. So up next, we are going to, so sorry about that. I also want to apologize to David Cobb, who ran out of time. We missed his window. David Cobb was working on the public banking bill 1177 with and he's also a co-coordinator of the U.S. Solidarity Economy Network. And unfortunately, my apologize to David that we were running a little bit over. But so let's bring back Brianna. Hi, Brianna.
Hey, gosh, I'm still that song from earlier that Michael played was just touched my heart. The revolution will start in your heart. And that is that lyric right there is so true, and that was beautiful.
Yeah, I agree, because at the end of the day, it's love. Like Dr. West says, justice is what love looks like in public, right? And I really do feel that it's the love that does bind us, because progressives all across America, these fights, Ferguson, Standing Rock, Occupy, Bernie Sanders. So many amazing stands for justice. We're meeting each other. You know, technology is connecting us. and we're becoming a national movement. And I really do feel that it really is the love. And I can't wait to introduce a brother that I love dearly named Derek Marshall, who I met. He was organizing phone banks in Germany for congressional campaigns when we were supporting Shahid's campaign. So I'm really excited to bring on Derek Marshall, and we're also going to bring on Kara Hall to talk with Brianna about what was happening in Nevada. Welcome, Derek, who is running in California. Hold on, what district, Derek? What district are you running in right now?
Yeah, sure. It's the 8th Congressional District in California, which for those that don't know, it goes from Joshua Tree all the way up to just south of Lake Tahoe.
Awesome.
It's a huge district.
Thank you for joining us. And, you know, I relate to you because you're just like, you are an organizer, you know what I mean? So you're someone who comes from the grassroots. You're not somebody who's a career politician, you know. So I really, I love your spirit, but just curious as to, you know, why you decided to run.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. I mean, honestly, if you would have asked me a year and some months ago, if I was planning or thinking about running, I would have told you that you were crazy. I think that, you know, I mean, I studied political science, and I think a lot of those of us that have studied political science have at one point or another entertained the thought of running. And, you know, to be honest, I never really thought about it seriously until I became a staffer for Bernie, and until I saw what kind of happened with the campaign, you know, particularly with his second campaign. And I think I was just like really, I was, yeah. To say that I was angry is maybe oversimplifying things, but I definitely felt after he dropped out, I definitely started to think like, look, like I need to be serious about my activism and organizing and take it to the next level. And so I decided to give myself a really long chunk of time during COVID, working on a number of different campaigns, and then I finally decided, okay, yes, this is what I need to do. Like, more of us just need to throw our hat into the race and build proper organizing campaigns. And if we keep on doing that and we just link arms together, at some point, some of us are going to start to win. And so that's kind of what really pushed me to run.
Yeah, the one thing I love about you, Derek, is you're an organizer at heart. I met you. You're the real deal, and the fact that you're willing to put yourself out there and run for office, and realistically, when you run for office, you put yourself under a microscope, not just to your community, but nationally. You're doing that, and that takes bravery. What is, you think, most important issues in this moment heading into your election, and as we look towards the future, that you think that we need now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really comes down to jobs, jobs and redistributing the wealth and fixing the way that our entire economy sort of shares the wealth. And I think that particularly for my district, we have huge unemployment rates. The majority of folks that do have jobs are commuting out of the district. They're commuting to LA. They're driving an hour and a half one way to work. And so for us, the Green New Deal, and specifically the community jobs guarantee that's promised in the Green New Deal, is something that would mean, it would really just mean life or death. It would mean whether or not kids can stay with their families up in our district and in our community.
Yeah, I agree. You know, that's one of those components in the Green New Deal that is adamantly important, is a jobs. And a good paying job, good union paying job. We have to be explicit when we say that too. We need more union jobs, so people can have, you know, collective bargaining power for safe work, and be able to organize for safe work conditions, and raises when the bosses get their raise too, because we know that doesn't trickle down. As time has shown since Reagan's trickle down economics, and we know that does not work. It's just grown the gap between the rich and the poor. I know that you have been focusing a lot of your energy and time when you're not on the campaign trail, even prior to running, doing mutual aid work. And seeing you do that and doing that work, I want to commend you for that, because I think that is something that a lot of communities are doing kind of out of COVID, and hopefully that's something sustainable and we can continue to build on to that. Can you talk about a little bit about the mutual aid work that you're doing?
Oh, just so we know, I think we have Kara's joined us, but I'm not sure she could get her her camera working. Can you hear us, Kara? No, having technical difficulties. Okay, so sorry.
Sure. Yeah. So power of mutual aid. I mean, I think that there's, you know, I'm going to use some honey. Oh my God, I'm going to use some honeypot. I'm going to use some organizing terms right now. But I think that mutual aid is, you know, alongside demonstrations, is a honeypot for attracting civic-minded folks. I think that there's a lot of folks that have lost faith in the political process. There's a lot of folks out there that really want to do the right thing. They see the problems, they see the poverty, they see our unhoused neighbors, and they really want to get involved in doing something. And I think that, you know, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that. Number one, as we've seen this past week with a lot of the Palestinian protests, there are protests. There are places where folks can come together, activists can come together. If you're feeling a feeling about something, you can show up. And I think that mutual aid, very much in line with protest, is a way that you can actually help to move the needle. You can come out, you can be in solidarity, you can sit in solidarity with our unhoused neighbors, bringing cans of food, bringing hygiene products, and you can really listen to stories. And the reason that I use the term honeypot is because what it does is it brings people who are civically minded to the table. And once they're at the table, you can start to have a conversation with folks about the political infrastructure that we can build together in order to eliminate the problems that you're there fighting for in the first place. And I think that that's the power of mutual aid, is that we're coming out to solve a thing, and in that process of solving the thing, we're then also talking about the political ways that we can solve that same thing. And I think that that's ultimately what the power of mutual aid is, and why I felt called my whole life, why I still feel called every Sunday to go out and do mutual aid work.
Amazing. And tell us a little bit about, we have some technical difficulties with Cara Hall. Hopefully we'll get that working in a second, but really curious, what was happening in Nevada recently?
What was happening in Nevada recently? Yeah.
With progressives specifically.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that Nevada is, you know, it's a really exciting story. And I think that, you know, Brianna, I think that all of us on the left, a lot of us on the left have, you know, we have our fingers in the organizing that happened out there. And I guess the TLDR is that progressives finally came to power, or they took the reins of power, you know, of the Nevada Democratic Party. And I think that the way that happened was that there was a period of, let's say, 2 to 3 years, 1 to 2 cycles of political organizing that took place. There was the DSA, the Democratic Socialist America. There were you know, there were mutual aid networks. There was the Bernie Sanders campaign. There was the Amy Vilela campaign, and a number of organizers that came into the state of Nevada that linked with existing organizers in the state of Nevada to be in solidarity. And we all came together and we did a lot of organizing. We engaged voters, we registered voters, we talked and held community events. And what we demonstrated over the past couple of years is the power that we can wield when people come together. And so that's, I think that Kara and Brianna, you know, probably have more color to put in there. But from the organizer side of things, from my personal experience as a staffer for Bernie, doing some of the organizing work that we did there, that's kind of my perspective.
Thank you. Everyone, Kara Hall, driving to Bakersfield, right, Kara?
Yes.
If you can hear us. From yes, Las Vegas DSA in the house.
Woo.
Can you tell us a little bit, like building on to what Derek was mentioning there, on like what Las Vegas DSA has done, what the Nevada Democratic Party, and why? Why was it important to run within the infrastructure of the Democratic Party to help change it?
We had to make a lot of decisions, and some of them were just kind of organic things that we did while we were organizing for other things, and that we just kind of realized like might be better like as we went on. So we didn't put so much effort into it, but in Nevada everything is controlled by the Reed machine, right? Like that's how things run here in Nevada. It was a purple state, it's kind of a blue state now, and I say kind of because even though it is, like, the people we have in office are very much, because they don't want to alienate their voters. They don't want to be too left wing. When Amy Villela ran for Congress in 2018, she realized just how difficult it was for her to kind of go up against that Reed machine, who in primaries and stuff like that was going to go hard for the incumbent. And we realized that if we were going to ever be able to, run progressive candidates or have people that could beat a current incumbent or something like that, we had to take on that structure from the inside. And so for 2 years, we signed up people to empty seats and a lot of different stuff. People tried to keep it, that boys club, that old kind of, tight knit everything. And, we just organized while we organized for Bernie and we signed them up to the Democratic Party at the same time. We were having these organizing conversations and we were getting out there. And then the more we did that, next thing we ran enough for our seats and we were like, oh, okay, cool. We've got it. So that let us kind of go forward knowing where we stood.
Yeah, it's really amazing work, and I'm a strong advocate for the inside-outside strategy, and it's important to have people that believe in things like healthcare for all, jobs for all, housing for all, racial justice for all, in those spaces in the Democratic Party, making sure that it is a equitable and actual representation of the people. And there's a lot of power inside that structure as well. And you touching on that with the Reed machine, that's we have our own kind of Harry Reid here in Arizona, and Senator Kyrsten Sinema. A lot of money through the Sinema campaign, has a lot of influence in the party structure. But we're also operating in the inside-outside strategy here in Arizona, just like Nevada. We also elected quite a few outspoken progressives. Not everybody identifies as a DSA member, but we have a lot of union labor leaders now on our board. Saturday, we elected a CWA union leader to one of our vice positions. So it's exciting to see, leftists and progressives, really stepping up to the plate and bringing a voice to all areas in this political space. So, with that, I think we're running a little bit behind. Derek, Kara, any last words for people that are maybe tuning in, like important issues that you think need to be amplified in this moment?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the biggest thing right now, just offering people a way to get involved, because I think that this cycle, this next post-presidential cycle is upon us. Like, we're already 5-6 months into 2021, and so that means that things and campaigns are starting to really heat up. And so a personal, just kind of, if folks would like a way to get in, I mean, we're looking for volunteers on our campaign. You can go to derekmarshallca.com if folks want to sign up to be a volunteer. There's a lot of things that we're doing. We're doing voter registration work, and also there's a number of non-electoral things that we're going to be pushing and presenting to folks. Particularly for folks in our district, but also for people that are interested in finding out a little bit more about how organizing works. There's a number of opportunities that we have on the campaign, and yeah, I think that I would just say, get involved. We have the fight is not over. I think that we all kind of share that, and so we need to keep involved, and we need to continue to do the work that we're doing.
And just to add to what Derek said, like, being organized is a huge important part of this. Like, we can't do this kind of as all individuals. We need to come together in that solidarity that, like Jay said earlier. So, like, find a group, whether it's DSA or another group in your community that's doing the work, a campaign, something, and get together with other people to be able to contribute to this. I think that being organized is going to be what wins us these races.
I completely agree. And if anybody wants to join DSA or give us a shameless plug, Kara, for something in Las Vegas that people can support.
Yeah, you can go to dsausa.org/join. And that is how you can sign up to be a DSA member. Las Vegas DSA, you can follow us at Las Vegas DSA on Twitter, or go to our website at lvdsa.org. But we have tons of opportunities in Nevada and across the country for DSA.
Awesome. Well, thank you both. Drive safe. I know you're on the road. Derek, thank you for joining us. Want to give a big shout out to some of our co-hosts for this event tonight: ACT TV, PDA, Progressive Democrats of America, Climate Hawks, Vote, and the People for Bernie.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks to Kara and Derek. Amazing human beings. You are also an amazing human being, Brianna. I am just blown away that we're getting to be on this adventure together. Super grateful.
Likewise.
I mean, she's great in front of the microphone, but behind the scenes, amazing organizer. So I'm really excited for that. And also excited to bring up brother Shahid Buttar. Let's see if we got that mic working now. We would get it working. Check 1, 2. Still with the technical, we're just going to absorb your wisdom. We're just going to absorb it like a Vulcan mind meld. Are you ready? Telepathic. Totally. I completely agree. Yeah, I see it. Yeah, I mean, I agree. The police state is, absolutely emerging with into a fascist, oligarchy. I completely agree with you. Totally agree. Great point, by the way.
Solid, very solid point.
Well, I love you, Shahid. I'm sorry we had technical difficulties, but please follow Shahid on Twitter, Shahid Buttar on Twitter, and also he's still taking his infrastructure. We had in that campaign there were 2,000 volunteers across the country, and it's unfortunate that COVID kind of put a damper on the ground game, but really inspiring to see. One of the things I loved about that campaign was the campaign organizing calls during the George Floyd actions turned into direct action trainings, because the entire staff, Shahid's entire staff, was going out and standing on the front lines, which was pretty incredible. So that's where Shahid's heart was first, which is one of the reasons that I became part of that campaign. So, but we're looking forward to come back. Yeah, Brianna?
One of the things is too that it's important to remember, and like in some of these races where it's really challenging and you're facing really maybe a tough incumbent, hard to beat, just because they have the capital, or you're maybe in a very Republican district, is if you do fall short at the ballot box, you do win other ways. You can win other ways by changing the conversation, centering a particular issue in your campaign and its importance to your community, and inspiring others locally to get involved. I think that is immeasurable, the amount of impact that you can make a outspoken person when it comes to particular policies. There's numerous people that volunteered on my campaign that are now active organizers in the Democratic Party. They are now running for particular positions, whether it be local or potentially thinking about running for federal office. And these are people that were inspired by a campaign that we ran out here. And that's those are wins that come from running too. And I think sometimes that gets overlooked because, you know, we put so much weight into winning at the ballot box that sometimes we forget that, you know, we're winning other ways. Like, for example, the Bernie Sanders campaign. Over 22 million people voted between 2016 and 2020 for a candidate that identified openly as a democratic socialist. And all of the issues that Bernie spoke to are now mainstream ideas. Many of them are actually in the platform for the Democratic Party. Some are really close. Do believe that we're going to get those pieces in the platform, particularly Medicare for All. You know, if you would have asked us, you know, 4 years ago, had we been able to mobilize over 1,000 people to withhold their vote for a party platform, I don't think we probably would have accomplished that, but we did. So we are moving the needle forward. We are getting to where we want to get. But revolutions don't happen overnight. I believe we're in the middle of a political revolution. We have more and more wins every single election cycle, and it's just going to continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm excited to see where we go collectively as a movement from here. I'm excited for the election on June 8th for our endorsed candidate. I'm excited to see who we have on the ballot heading into 2022 that we can support as an organization that we know that is going to stand true to actual policies that meet the moment. So I'm super pumped.
Agreed. And, you know, with Shahid's campaign, we got to push the Overton window on issues like public banking and nationalizing fossil fuels, which you don't hear. And personally, I don't know how we're really going to do it without nationalizing fossil fuels if you really believe the climate science. But we're going to be able to, coming up next, talk to somebody who, for me, has been somebody that I have looked to, you know, as a mentor, someone who is actually feared by the established Democrats in Sacramento, and somebody who is really, really very deadly serious about you know, a just transition off of fossil fuels by getting out what she calls the climate ducks and bringing in climate hawks. So I'm really excited to introduce R.L. Miller, the founder of Climate Hawks Vote. Let's see, are we getting in?
I hope so. Can you guys?
All right. Can you hear us, R.L.?
Yes. Yes. Can you hear me?
Now it's a little better.
Okay. I'm my new foster who is helping me with all the technical issues here. So I'm
Yeah, I'm going to blame solar flares. I think there's solar flares causing it. Sorry, the connectivity is a little low. Try again. R.L.
So I'm R.L. Miller. I founded Climate Hawks Vote to build political power for the climate movement. I'm also a DNC member. That is to say, I'm one of those super delegates that you guys love to hate. And I ran for DNC so that I could tell Tom Perez to fuck off to his face instead of telling him online. So that, I hope that you'll forgive me for being a super delegate.
Awesome.
So I live in California. I'm a Woolsey Fire wildfire survivor, and I work on this issue partly at the federal level and partly at the California level because it's so incredibly important in every state. California folk who are listening, you might not know this, but today California was running on 70% renewables. Most of that was solar during the daytime from 12 to 5 or thereabouts. Now, if your internet was flickering, you can blame this platform, but your lights were not flickering. You are not doomed. Our electricity is not going out. And the reason why all of this good solar energy is happening in California was because of a bill that I helped get votes for in the state legislature by the name of SB 100. Policy matters. And just to give a really small example of how policy matters, top 10 states for solar power in America, California, of course, Texas. Yeah, Texas, it's big. Florida, North Carolina, you can expect that. You can expect Nevada and Arizona is finally starting to move up. But New York, Massachusetts, and New Jersey, those states are not top 10 solar states because they are so sunny and warm all the time. They are top 10 solar policy because state houses pass good solar policy. That's what matters. You can put solar on your rooftop. I have. I hope that everybody does. But what really matters is state house policy. I wish Shahid had been able to speak about the incredibly scary things that are happening in the way of voter suppression laws being passed in states where they think that Donald Trump secretly won the election. Arizona, I'm sorry, that's national laughing stock. They're going to be trying the same thing in Georgia, Florida, Texas, you name it. They're trying to make it criminal for people like us to vote. And I'm not going to get my good solar policy passed if people don't show up to the polls and vote and demand it. And so I'm really excited about the down ballot progressives, because what we need to do is build an army of grassroots progressives. You can't just come out of nowhere and decide to run for Congress. You run first for city council and you run for state house. And then you try to level up to Congress. And so Climate Hawks Vote put a lot of time and effort into backing Yasin Ansari in a Phoenix City Council race. And people from Massachusetts would write to me and say, why do we care about somebody in Phoenix, a city council member in Phoenix? And I said, because someday somebody is going to want to primary Kristen Sinema. And that's not going to happen unless we've got down ballot progressives at every level who know that policy matters, and we can't just accept the status quo. We have to get change makers. We need to get disruptors into the state house. And the way we do that is through down ballot progressives. I don't want to. I'm not sure if you want to pose questions for me, or if I should be talking, or if I'm missing some obvious point.
We're having some connectivity issues, but I hope everybody could take that in message to heart, because it is really critically important. And one of the reasons that I've always called you is because you understand the game and you understand building the concept of building power. There is no systemic change that we want without building power and without strategy. And you're a person I've always looked to for that. And just as we wrap up, how can we follow Climate Hawks Vote and stay in touch?
Sure. Sign up for emails at climatehawksvote.com. And if you guys don't mind, I'm going to be pushing one of our projects. We are one.
Push away. Solidarity. We're here to uplift everyone else. We are a rising tide lifts all ships.
Except that a rising tide of oil drowns the water. And we are here. Climate Hawks Vote is one of the many partner organizations of Treaty People Gathering. We're all going to Minnesota to stop Line 3. We stopped Keystone XL. We brought Dakota Access Pipeline to the national front. And now it's time to stop Line 3. Go to treatypeoplegathering.com for more information, June 4 through 8. I suppose I should plug my own org, which is climatehawksvote.com, but honestly, this is about a movement. It's not about me.
But also, you are definitely a key player in that movement, so I will do it. I'll promote Climate Hawks Vote. Definitely follow her to check out. Yeah, and RL has a good track record of picking winners, so that's another thing. Like, a lot of your candidates do fare very well. So thank you for all your support. And if you can, message me what that is, and we'll try to put that up in the lower third so that people who are watching can follow us. Great. All right. Well, thank you, RL, and thank you for the work. She was instrumental in pushing SB 100. And I want to also give a shout out to one of her coalition members, David Braun from Rootskeeper, and Californians Against Fracking. It's his birthday, so I want to say happy birthday to David Braun. We love you, brother, and thank you, RL, for joining us. All right, Brianna, I think so. Shahid, we lost, so let's bring back on Amory to wrap it up.
Hey
guys, thanks for doing this. I think we are actually just one donor away at this point from our donor goal tonight. So if you're still listening, still with us, come on, be that one more person, be that one more. You all have been phenomenal in helping us launch this organization, and so excited just hearing everyone talk tonight, all the different stories, all the different states, and knowing, we got a lot of work to do, and we'll do it, because I'm confident we will recruit the volunteers necessary. That the movement's showed up before, and it's going to show up again. It's going to continue making a name for itself in these state houses.
Awesome. Anything to add to that, Brianna?
Well, hopefully we get to our goal. So if you're listening, pitch in. Let's get us over that hump and meet our fundraising goal for this call. It was a lofty goal, and we're gonna hit it. And like many people said on this call tonight, everything starts local, and that's what we're doing. We're building that capacity to build that infrastructure out, so we can achieve sustainable wins for the progressive movement in states. We've seen countless attacks, since the November election on voting laws in Arizona, in Texas, in Florida, and in Georgia. They know that more people are paying attention to politics and showing up at the voting booth. That's why more people voted in 2020 than ever before. People understand the importance of voting. They saw what happened when we don't vote. We had 4 years of outrageous attacks on just about anything that lives, from Donald Trump and the Republican Party when they were in control. We cannot let them continue to push their autocratic agenda, because that's more or less what it is. We need to have voices at the table in these state houses to put up a barrier to combat some of the legislation that they're doing, like Representative Salman had mentioned. Democrats are not in control in Arizona, but having people there on the front lines to block legislation and amplify this horrible legislation, so more people pay attention and show up the next election, is important. We need people everywhere to understand the importance of these state house elections and the impact that they have on our communities and our day-to-day lives. So I thank anybody that tuned in and watched this broadcast today. I know that you could have spent your time elsewhere, but you tuned in to hear this message, to hear these speakers, to support this organization. I cannot thank you enough, and we must persist, and solidarity forever.
Awesome. And here we have one, RL was talking about how the targeted assault on voting itself. So I just have a quick 1 minute video that speaks directly to that.
Texas, the latest battleground in a nationwide GOP effort to pass new laws restricting voting access. The push comes as many in the party continue to falsely claim that the 2020 election was rigged.
The integrity of elections in 2020 were questioned right here in Harris County.
Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott and Republicans who control the state legislature say changes are needed to ensure election security. They're gearing up to pass new legislation that, if signed into law, will lead to sweeping changes for how Texans can vote. It especially affects diverse urban counties that expanded voting options amid the pandemic. The GOP legislation follows record high early vote turnout last year in large metro areas like Houston. That was after election officials added measures to make voting easier, including 24-hour and drive-through voting. Legislation passed by the state Senate would outlaw those expanded voting options. The bills also limit the number and location of polling places in only a handful of counties in Texas with populations of at least 1 million people.
What do you say to the criticism that, regardless of the intent of this law, that it will make it harder for some people, including people of color, Black people, disabled people, to vote?
Texas Republicans still need to merge their House and Senate bills in the coming days. The final bill will then go to the governor, who is expected to sign.
So there you have it, folks. They're basically they're trying to this is an end run to disenfranchise young people and black and brown people. They're trying to take away our right to vote. This is why we need to organize at the state level. This is why we need down ballot progress to help these state races. Any last words, Amory?
I think it's pretty clear what we got to do. In super blue states, we have to primary those Democrats who aren't doing enough for working families. In those moderate states, we need to make our voices heard and make sure we're electing more progressives that represent us and can really help those purple states flip from red to blue fully. And in those red states, continue to register voters. We know what we need to do. The message has been delivered from all the representatives and state senators that got on tonight. So couldn't be more grateful. Let's get to work.
Awesome. And I just want to thank you. Thanks so much, everyone who showed up tonight. I want to thank Jabari Brisport, R.L. Miller, Mimi Kennedy, Michael Leidy, Athena Salman, David Cobb. I'm so sorry, we weren't able to get you in. Derek Marshall, Shahid Battar, Kara Hall, Fatima Iqbal Zubair, Michael Mowgli for bringing his beautiful music. And he's right. The revolution will happen in our hearts. And I definitely want to thank my comrade Brianna Westbrook and Amory Desjardins. Really, it's been a pleasure and looking forward to continuing this effort.
Well, thank you, Jay. Appreciate it. And have a good night, folks. Thanks for being here.
Let's go take back some state houses.
That's right. Take back the State House. All right. So there is a volunteer meeting on June 2nd. You can sign up. Please just sign up on the website, downballotprogress.com, downballotprogress.com. If you want to donate, it's downballotprogress.com/donate. Follow us on social media, stay in touch. Definitely follow all of the people who are on this call. They're doing amazing work. R.O. Miller, she just told us about her treatypeoplegathering.com, treatypeoplegathering.com, her efforts, and Climate Hawks. So we're just so grateful to everybody for your time. But beyond the money, you are more important than your money. You are more important than your money. We are the 99%. That means there's a lot more of us if we just come together and leverage that people power with the inside-outside strategy. So lots of love to everyone. Any final words?
Nope. Good night.
Right. And thank you again to ACT TV, Climate Hawks Vote, PDA, California Banking Alliance, Meg Lay, everyone who supported the broadcast, and also John Ellis, our heroic tech director. We want to thank him for all of his hard work as well.
And thank you, Jay. Thank you, Jay, for being a great co-host.
Thank you. Okay. All right, everybody.
Have a good night.
Onward. Solidarity.